It's been said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to the Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast, where we will focus on all things hunting in the backcountry, not just in Australia, but everywhere that backcountry hunting is possible. My name is Tobias, and if you're a hunter with no backpacking experience, or even an expert, I would like you to join me as we explore gear, places, and technologies, hear lived experiences, different perspectives, and share the passion that people have for a hard-earned backpack hunt. I appreciate you being here with me as I try to increase the knowledge that will bring us better luck in the backcountry. Now, it's definitely recording this time. I'm double checking and triple checking. It is definitely recording.
Too easy.
All right, welcome to another episode of Australian Hunting Backcountry, and very pleased today to be joined by Chris Burns. Chris, I know listeners will possibly recognise your name and your voice from Friends of the Podcast episode, and we can get to that to remind people about that product in a minute. But essentially, I wanted you here to talk about another aspect of what it is that you do. So, Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Tobias. It's a pleasure to be here again. Thanks for having me on.
So, mate, Chris Burns, who is he other than a bloke growing an awesome mustache?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm a hunter. I love the outdoors and love being in the bush. Love pursuing wild game and getting out into the wilderness. But I also love taking photos as well, capturing moments and capturing microseconds of time for people in the bush, or even self documenting my own sort of journey. But yeah, my real passion is to show hunting in a light which is beneficial for hunting. Documenting an authentic journey. I think there's so many more facets of hunting than just pulling the trigger. I think everything about it, that the journey leading up to the success is worth telling as well. Like there's always the grip and grin at the end of the hunt. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of details that get missed prior and even after. And I just live for capturing those moments. Yeah.
And you raised a good point there as well, that it's the hunting journey in air quotes is not just having that grip and grin achievement at the end. There are some of the best trips, personally, some of the best trips that I've done have not resulted in me firing a shot at all. And that whole journey, the whole process along the way, the ability to be able to capture that and so forth, I think is one of the real true artistic talents that a photographer can have.
Yeah, I think you can get caught up on the end result. Often when we do go out, our goal is to take an animal, harvest the meat. But if that doesn't happen, it's also nice to know that you've gone out there, you've learnt on that trip. The weather might have been bad, the wind might have given you up, animals may have outsmarted you. So I think even if it isn't successful, there's also learnings to have from an unsuccessful hunt. But yeah, when there's a cameraman there documenting everything as well, it's sort of, you do get that whole spectrum, the highs and the lows sort of thing. But yeah, I've never walked out of the bush without a smile on my face, put it that way. Yeah. Even if you haven't harvested an animal, you've still tried your hardest, you still walk out there pretty happy, and you plan the next hunt as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's right. So tell me about your journey into hunting. How did it start for you, and where has it taken you, and some of those adventures?
Yeah, so I'd probably say that early days I was a fisherman. My dad and my pop were fishermen. Neither of them. My pop hunted, but it was more for a feed of rabbits or whatever back a while ago. but my dad never took up hunting at all. So he was more of a fisherman, and he would take me out fishing, and I'd always ask my pop to take me out whenever I could get a chance. And they probably got to the point where they were sick of me asking to take them out for me to go out with them fishing. But yeah, they sort of gave me enough rope when I was probably 12 or 13. We had a creek out the back of our house, and they used to let me go, or Dad used to let me fish in the creek by myself, catching carp and redfin and trout. So naturally, I was in the outdoors down by a creek. You'd see the foxes, you'd see the rabbits, and it sort of perked my interest a little bit. But I didn't know anything about hunting them. My brother, who's a little bit older than I, turned 18 and bought a shotgun and a 22 and said to me, come along for a hunt and see if you like it. So we went on a hunt together, and just that excitement of whistling in a fox to within 10 meters just sort of it hooked me there and then, and started fox hunting and rabbit hunting, and then we went on a trip to Laos to hunt some goats. That was sort of my first medium game sort of expedition. And after that trip, that sort of, I really got the bug then, and started looking into Africa, hunted Africa a fair bit. And
wow, certainly jumped in the deep end then.
Yeah. So it was a toss up between New Zealand and Africa, and I sort of looked at it. Africa was going to be a once in a lifetime sort of trip, and I booked that once in a lifetime trip, and it turned into once every year for the next 10 years. I got so hooked on it. I forgot about New Zealand there for a decade and just hunted Africa pretty exclusively. But yeah, I think that the progression started with that outdoors and hunting medium game, harvesting meat, getting into deer hunting where the deer were so much smarter than the goats were. You'd be hunting, and there'd be days where you're not very successful, and you would wonder why, and then you'd realise that the wind wasn't right, or you weren't hunting the right times, and that sort of baptism of fire without having an older mentor who had done all the mistakes. We were learning all the mistakes for ourselves, crunching through gullies and spooking deer, and you just slowly put those pieces of the puzzle together, and you do become a better hunter with time. But I always wondered, if I did have an older mentor out in the bush with me, I wonder if my learning would have accelerated, or if if I would have got to where I am now quicker than what I did. But I think that whole journey, I wouldn't change a thing. I think learning on your feet and learning by yourself, you do have to take a lot more in and read the play a little bit better.
Yeah, look, and mistakes are a great educator as well. So as long as they're not harmful, then certainly a good way to know what not to do next time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you grow up in Victoria or New South Wales?
Yeah, in Victoria. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And you're still down in Victoria now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I do most of my hunting on public land down in Victoria. Yeah.
So Africa, obviously bit, and how? Tell me about your African exploits, because I heard the same thing from a couple of people where they said exactly what you said, that this was going to be a once in a lifetime trip, and then they were booking the next trip before the first trip was over.
Yeah, 100%. I think the African journey for me started with David Attenborough documentaries. I always wanted to go over, even just to photograph, just to go on safari, just to see those exotic animals. And when I got into hunting, I started to think, I wonder if I could hunt over there as well. So I met a fella who was a Boilermaker. I was working with him, and I sort of thought he was Russian to begin with. I sort of was like, big, tall, blonde guy. I'm like, he's got an accent. I think he might be Russian. I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from South Africa. And I said, "Oh, what were you doing over there?" And he said, "Oh, safaris." And you know, the Aussies being a little bit cagey. I was like, "Oh, photographic safaris." He's like, "No, hunting safaris." And that's my ears pricked up. And I said, "Oh, do you have property?" He's like, "Oh, I know someone." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And from there, you know, 3 months later, me and my brother were there hunting for 14 days. The first trip was 14 days, and I think I might have shot like 10 plains game animals or something like that. But
Yeah.
I just remember when we got there driving through, once we got out of town and seeing all the animals, and when we actually got onto the property, it was just like the scene was just amazing. You know, there's giraffe and eland, and it was like those David Attenborough films. And
Yep.
yeah, the hunting was amazing, and the trackers were great. You know, they keep all the meat over there, which was a positive. Yeah, just an amazing time. And I said to that fella, the property owner, "Would you like any Australians to come and hunt here?" Because I loved it so much. If people wanted to go, I'll book them in and send them over to you. So I started up a little agency, like a booking agency over here in Australia, to send guys, and that was reasonably successful. A lot of guys booked through me to go there to that particular property. Still booking guys today. COVID sort of put a handbrake on it there for a bit, but it's all back open now, and yeah, just loved it. A bit hard, like they say, all the literature says that, you know, once the bug bites, you can't stop. And I'm itching to get back there. Put it that way. I haven't been since COVID, but yeah, I am itching to get back.
Yeah, one of my dream animals is a kudu. I'd love to hunt one of those and have a big set of, you know, big spiral horns and up on the wall. Yeah.
I remember still remember this was back in 2010. I still remember this vividly. We were walking in the bush, and we saw a kudu in the morning sun, and what alerted us to him was the glare or the flicker of the sun off his horns. And I just stood there with my mouth open, and the PH turned around, and he's like, "We're not here to catch flies." He's like, "Shut your mouth, and let's go and hunt the kudu." And I was just gobsmacked when I saw that thing on the foot with a rifle in my hand. I was just like, it floored me. Like, I was just, yeah. The kudu is an amazing animal. Yeah. Absolutely amazing animal.
Yeah. Now, where did so other than Africa, and obviously you're in Victoria, you've got a lot of opportunity, public land down there, and what's the sort of hunting scene for you down there? Like, I know you're balancing out a couple of businesses and that sort of thing. How much are you getting out into the bush now?
Yeah, I try to go out at least once a month. Either to hunt for myself or to hunt with mates and carry the camera. If I'm ever on a paid photography job, I'll follow a hunter around, and there might be an opportunity where I get to hunt as well. It's something like a fallow deer rut or something like that might be a little bit easier than a sambar hunt, a backpack sambar hunt. You know, you're obviously limited with weight, and to strap a rifle to your pack and all your camera gear as well, it's not really feasible. And it's also very difficult to carry a rifle and a camera because I am still a hunter, and it's often difficult to separate the two. You often need to commit to one or the other, otherwise one of the tasks suffers. So you sort of either have to be hard and fast on the photographer for this trip, or I'm a hunter for this trip. So yeah, whenever I go by myself, it's okay because I can. If I stuff up a hunt because I want to take a photo, it's on me. But if I'm with someone documenting their hunt, I have to be focused on their experience rather than my own.
Yeah, and that one of the things that we were talking about before we started was I remember hearing solo hunter Tim Burnett and an interview with him, and he was talking about the complexity of having to balance trying to get the footage of the, first of all, of the animal, and then get footage of himself getting ready to take the animal after, he'd made
Yeah.
that decision, and then actually getting into position to have a shot. And he said the number of times it just hasn't come together, and the animal has spooked or walked away, or gone out of frame, or and it's just blown. He said I've had to let that many animals go because of all of that. But that was the challenge that he accepted, obviously, and he's built his business around that. But yeah, it is. I know I've been with other mates that kind of producing content, or dabbling in it just as amateurs, and they want to photograph, or they want to film and so forth. And there's always that temptation, because they're carrying a rifle as well, to put the camera down, take the rifle off, and then you don't get the footage, and so you kind
Yeah.
of got to make that decision. Today I'm doing this, and I'm either hunting today, or I'm filming photography. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's hard for a hunter. Like if I was a photographer and not a hunter, um, obviously it would be that instinct to hunt wouldn't be there. But because I am a hunter, obviously in my photography it helps, because I can read the play. I can read when things are about to get serious. I can see the sign. I know that the sign's getting fresher, and we're finding rub trees, wallows, whatever it might be. So then I can read the body language of the guy I'm photographing. I know he's going quiet, he's going slower. I know I can read those signs. But it's difficult when I've got a rifle pack strapped to my pack as well. And if we ever separate or whatever, the hunter might say, I'm going to go up here for a bit. Oh, you walk down here. That hunt mode sort of activates as soon as that hunter's up the top or whatever. I'll end up grabbing my rifle off my pack, and it's always there. And often I'll end up just leaving the rifle in the car. I won't strap it to my pack. Only purely go out, take the photos, get the story told of the hunter himself. It's a bit tricky to do both.
Yeah, no, that if the temptation's there, we're all victims to it. So the photography side of things, how did that develop for you, and then how did that sort of meld into Chris Burns' photography in hunting?
Yeah, so I've always been infatuated with cameras since I can remember. When I started the African booking agency, I would go over and photograph people who booked with me if they wanted. So I sort of started professionally doing it when I was doing the African stuff, but it was predominantly in Africa. So I made films, African hunting films, just personal films for people who wanted it done. So from there, the creativity started, and I sort of identified that I was able to do it professionally. My skill set was good enough to be able to do it professionally. So when COVID hit, that's when I decided to kick off Chris Burns Photography in Australia, and focus my attention more on the Australian hunting industry. I think also part of the backstory to that was I was running that African hunting side of things back when the anti-hunting movement was quite progressing quite quickly on African animals. There was a ban on lion product imports into Australia in 2015. So I was just sort of perplexed as to why, because I understood why lions needed to get hunted, and I just was wondering, what a hunter's not doing a good enough job telling the story. Like, are they not? And historically, I don't think we have been, because, you know, when you get your animal, you get the grip and grin. Like, generally speaking, that's the only photo that you see published in the social space, you know. And with the social media, years ago, going back years ago, you used to put your printed photo up on the gun shop wall, and people who were hunters would go into the gun shop and they'd see the brag wall, or whatever you'd like to call it.
That's exactly right.
But that was hunters. It wasn't the whole spectrum of society. It was guys who knew why that animal needed to get hunted. What, you know, there wasn't the backlash, and when social media came on, the hunters are happy because they've got all these photos of these proud moments of being able to hunt that animal. You know, we're nowhere near as switched on as an animal is. We're only in their environment for microsecond. They're living in that environment. They know everything about their area. They know which gully to run up when the wind goes this way, when they smell that. They're way more in tune to their environment than we are. We're just spending a little bit of time there. But I think that grip and grin was almost it helped that anti-hunting movement, because all the messaging was these hunters are happy to be killing animals, but there was no sort of story, there was no lead up, there was no emotion. You know, the only emotion that people saw was a smile with a dead animal. So I think I sort of developed an opinion that I wanted to try and tell hunting in a different way, to tell the story documented in a different way, and show more of the details prior, the build up, the emotion, rather than, you know, I still take the photos of the grip and grins, and everyone likes them because they do very well on social media. But I think that I try to tell that story, that holistic story, not just post a grip and grin. And I try and at least communicate a sort of stronger message to help hunting's endeavours. You know, future. The future of hunting. I try to tell that story to help the future.
Look, the whole ban on trophy imports, none of that was actually based in any evidence. It was all an emotive decision, because, and I don't want to sound critical when I say this, but Cedric the lion, that was the tipping point for a majority of it. Whether you agree with what happened there or not, that's irrelevant. So it was all based around the emotion that was attached to. And I use this term, and I don't say, again, I'm not being critical of people, but we've been Disneyfied in our education, and because of that, the education that a lot of people have is only very limited through what they have seen in movies or the mainstream media print, because prior to social media, we just had magazines. You know, that was how we used to communicate amongst ourselves, and you only bought a magazine because you were interested in what the content was. And it wasn't readily available. It wasn't out there for everybody to see, to try and then, and I had a conversation with a guy this morning about this, where we seem to just be in this world now where people are just so ready to be offended by something. They can't just let it go and say, okay, well, that's what you want to do. I don't agree with it, but you go and do it because, there's really actually nothing wrong with what you're doing. I don't agree with it, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to ignore what you're doing. But they just can't sort of leave it alone. So social media has kind of been a double-edged sword. And if you've ever listened to, Matt Ranella, he has a podcast, Hunt Quietly, and he sort of talks quite a lot about social media and the disadvantage that the whole hunting industry has experienced because of it. But that's a rabbit hole I don't necessarily want to go down. But what I'm trying to highlight here is that what you're doing and what I'm sort of reading between the lines here is that through education, we're trying to paint hunting in the light that it actually is, and not just in the grip and grin, the joy over the kill, which is what most people think when they see that. Most people that don't have an understanding, they see that and they go, why is he happy? He's just killed an animal. But they haven't seen, the multiple days of effort and suffering and discomfort and energy that's been expended into getting to that point. And even beyond that, as well, the whole thing, the whole journey to get to that one point. So, yeah, I guess this is where sort of photography and videography really comes in, to having that opportunity to put it out on social media to show there is just more to it than this end product. It starts way back here and it goes all the way through. It goes beyond that as well, And Africa's a great example of that. Excuse me, I hadn't been myself, but have quite a few friends that have been, and there's a great example of conservation there, because an animal hits the ground from the hunter, and a lot of the time, the trophy, you get a very small part of it, and everything else is utilized, and it all goes to the local tribe or to the local village. And the guys that I've spoken to have said, literally, the animal hits the ground, you walk over, you take your photos with it, and then the guides come in with their knives, go to work, and at the end of it, all that's left is a blood stain on the ground. There is nothing that is left behind. Everything gets distributed, everything gets utilized somehow, somewhere along the way. And, so there, there's a good example of the positivity that can come out of hunting, and unfortunately it got painted very poorly by people who just weren't educated and who were responding to emotion rather than actual evidence.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I recall a story or a hunt that we were on in Namibia where we were hunting Hartman's zebra.
Mm-hmm.
They're a mountain species of zebra. They only live in the mountains, and
much prettier marking than the plains zebra.
Yeah, they're a beautiful animal. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and we hunted one, quite a good shot, and we got to that animal. Same thing. Took some photos. Showed our respect. We were in the mountains on horseback, so to lighten the load, we were gutting, field dressing the animal, and field dressed the animal, grabbed out quarters. I'm pretty sure it was quarters. We all carried some quarters, got it back up to the horses, and one of the trackers was carrying like what looked to me like the guts. Like, I was sort of taken back by the fact that he was carrying out the guts, and we were all carrying out meat, and I was wondering why they didn't just leave the gut pile with the rest of the carcass. But I was sort of perplexed. But anyway, they can do them. Obviously I'm in their country. I'm a foreigner, so I was just going with the flow. And we ended up riding the horses back to like this little village, and the professional hunter gave the offal to one of the tribesmen there, and his smile was contagious. Like, it was ear to ear. He was absolutely stoked that he'd just been handed this, what to a Westerner is a pile of guts.
Yeah.
And I was like, does he want any meat? And they're like, no, they prefer the kidneys and the liver and the heart and the lungs and whatever else was attached to to what I thought was like the innards. But he was stoked, absolutely stoked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing to go and experience these things, because if I hadn't experienced that, I would have had absolutely, like, literally, when people say in Africa nothing gets wasted, absolutely nothing gets wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even, like I said before, there's a blood stain on the ground, but even the blood, they try not to waste it. They actually collect it as well. So they actually, it's very minimal blood that's even left behind too. So you're right, 100% right. Literally nothing is wasted. So I think there's, we're kind of, the American model, where in some places, they have full carcass recovery. Like it's law that you have to carry everything out.
Yep.
And, in Australia, obviously, we're hunting feral animals in air quotes. So we don't have those sort of legislated requirements. But obviously, people that do this sort of hunting value the meat, they value the resource. It's not the trophy's not just in the length of the antlers for us. It's there's a lot more to it as well. So yeah, it's I think whilst social media, coming back to that, whilst it is a double-edged sword, it is also an opportunity for us to educate people better and have that communication channel there, so that not everything is a one-sided sort of presentation by the antis, I guess, for want of a better term.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even to a degree where I just had an interaction when I was up in the Northern Territory. We were going into a hotel, and a group of people, probably maybe mid-20s to the blokes might have been like mid-30s, maybe 40s. Six people came out, and we sort of bumped into each other at the door at the entry of the hotel. And obviously was dressed in pretty much hunting attire, because you're limited on weight when you fly anywhere, and I had a heap of camera gear. So I had my hunting hat on, and a hunting bum bag and stuff like that, and a hunting pack. And they said, "Oh, what are you guys doing here? Are you guys hunting?" And we're like, yeah. And they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" And we said, "Victoria." And they're like, "Oh, what do you hunt in Victoria?" And we said, "Oh, deer." And they're like, "Oh, do we have deer in Australia?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's a heap of deer in Victoria anyway. Might not be much up in the Territory, but there's a lot of deer in Victoria. So there's even people out there who live in Australia that wouldn't even know that there's a wild deer population."
Yeah.
So the education, you've got that spectrum where they'd have no idea why we're sitting behind a deer with a big smile on our face, because they wouldn't know how tasty those animals are. And then you've got the antis who are hell bent on trying to shut us down. But I think if you can sort of take a step back and sort of look at it from a different point of view, where maybe there's someone on social media that has no idea what we do and why we do it. And if I didn't know what we did and why we did it, that grip and grin photo would be rather confronting. But if you can just tell, like, a couple of steps prior, we were out camping, backpacking, we were carrying 30 kilos on our back, up and down these giant mountains, shaly faces, thick country. We put in probably burnt, 5,000 calories a day trying to get to this animal. We were exhausted. Finally happened. We got it. Then we had to carry all the meat back out. It's sort of, if you can tell them how much effort went into that 1 microsecond where you're over the moon, you're elated that it came together. I think that sort of approach will help hunting into the future. We are a part of the feral, like we talk about introduced game or introduced species. We are hunting feral animals, so we are also helping the environment by taking these animals off the environment, keeping their numbers in check. So we're not bad people. Hunters aren't the bad ones. Like we're busy trying to help the environment and also get a tasty bit of protein in the process. It's not even just about that final successful moment. It's like having a campfire. How good is it sitting around the campfire in the middle of nowhere? If you're sharing the campfire with a mate, you're busy there talking, looking at the stars. It's just a reset, from this modern life where everything's so busy. That bush time, it's vitally important.
Yeah.
That resource, that wild deer is a resource beyond measure. You can't just weigh it as kilograms of meat. There's so many more facets to that particular action to carry that meat out, to get that meat. There's a real mental health benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just about to mention that as well. Yeah. Anybody that tells me that their mental health doesn't benefit from time out in the bush is not doing it right.
yeah,
And even the guy I was talking to this morning, we were talking about our sons, and because we've both got young teenage sons, and them coming along hunting as well, and that time, that being able to connect, from an old man to a young man, and bonding and creating that safe space where conversations can be had, because traditionally men, and I'm not trying to exclude women from the hunting scene here, but I'm just talking about men, because obviously I'm an expert on men, being one. But the men traditionally, we're not good at sharing emotions. We're not good at talking about feelings. We're not good at communicating mental health issues. And so if we can create that safe space for our young men to be able to open up and communicate, then that is in turn going to benefit everybody. From a mental health point of view too. So, but even just talking amongst ourselves, like sitting, like you say, sitting around a campfire, being able to reflect, having the distractions of the modern world removed by force from us, because some of the places you go, you don't have phone service, and you don't want it anyway.
no,
But not having all of those distractions, and having nothing better to do but sit around and watch the bush TV. And initiate some sort of conversation, is invaluable.
yeah, 100%. I
Mm.
think my mates and I have spoken about it too. Like, it's just, um, yeah, it's just a really beneficial. It might not necessarily have to be hunting. We could be on a fishing trip, or
Mm.
I think just that time outside in the sun, in whatever weather it might be. That time outside is that reset that you need. Like, it's just the fresh air. Yeah, you sort of you're in tune with the environment. You're more mindful. When we go to work, we've been to work yesterday, and we were at work the day before, and we were at work, for the last decade.
Mm.
Work can get a little bit mundane, and when you go out in the bush, you can, that saying, stop to smell the roses. You're there. You're focusing on the wind. You're trying to get in tune with the environment. Yeah, you're reading the sign. I think it's, yeah, completely a positive experience.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I've never done a hike where I haven't carried a gun, but I could imagine for a non-hunter or a hiker, they'd have the same feeling that we get. I think that we'd have a little bit more excitement, because we're chasing something. We're trying to test our skills against an animal that
Mm.
knows their environment, and
Mm.
is often way, way, way smarter than what we are in the bush.
Mm.
Yeah, you've got the chase aspect rather than just walking through the bush. But yeah, I think I just fell in love with that wilderness style of a hunt. Strap your pack on with what you need to survive, and head in the bush, and just basically survive. There's a
Yep.
lot of modern conveniences now. The stoves are really small and lightweight, and the backpack meals are really good. And there's a lot of stuff that's helped us. Materials have developed. It's made backpack hunting quite accessible now.
Mm.
But yeah, to know that you have 3, 4, 5 days worth of stuff on your back, and you're going into the wilderness where there's no reception.
Mm.
If you don't have an emergency satellite communication device, no one's coming to get you. Like, you've got to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's that aspect as well. You're growing as a human when you're out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. I used to love the prospect, the thought of walking into the bush, like you say, put your backpack on, grab your rifle, and you walk into the bush with the intention of getting lost. Because all you wanted to do was to go where your nose sort of took you, basically. To keep following the sign, and You walk in there and you think, oh, geez, I want to go and check out that gully over there, or what's over that next ridge, or something like that. And years ago, one of the first things I bought, because back then you had to navigate with a map and compass, and so there was no Google Earth, and there was no satellite messengers and so forth. So one of the first things I ever saved up to buy was one of the first GPS units that came out, and they were horribly unreliable and slow, and but I wanted that so that I could literally park the car, put the backpack on, hit the button, mark where the car was, turn it off, throw it in the pack, and then walk for however many days, and then get to the point where you go, okay, I probably should think about going home now. Which direction, do I need to go, or that sort of thing. And so it just gave you that certainty that you were going to be able to get home and make your way out. But I've said for years that hunting is a form of mindfulness, and we never really years ago realised the importance of that and the effect that it was going to have on us. And the beneficial effect that it was going to have on us. So, no, I hear you, 100% hear you. Welcome to another segment of Australian Hunting Backcountry, friend of the podcast. In this segment, I am joined by Nina from Ausstealth. Nina, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Nina tells me that she is a worker in the company. However, I think that she's underselling herself a bit, because Nina's actually the partner of one of the company directors and company owners. So I'm sure you're fairly well entrenched in the company workings.
Yes, that's right. So I've been here right from the beginning, from the design process right up to selling the garments at our expos, and so pretty much everywhere in between.
Yeah, great. So, Nina, I got to visit your stand at the Wild Deer Expo earlier this year. I think I might have said g'day to you, but I spoke to Donna briefly about the podcast and coming on board. So, thank you again for agreeing to do this. And I guess if we could start with, give us the elevator pitch about Ausstealth, who they are, the company, and how it sort of came about.
All right. So Ausstealth started off in 2017, where we kind of noticed that when there wasn't many, it's really an Australian pattern out in the hunting market. And having been married to a hunter and a family of hunting, and so then we came about the Australian native bush being on our clothing.
Yep.
We kind of just started off with, some jackets initially, and now we've got a children's range and women's, it's all unisex, our clothing. And we've decided also to expand the size range in our clothing, so that we noticed that there wasn't many people that were catering for the larger sizes.
Yep.
So yeah, the thing that kind of is different from our stuff to the other stuff is that it's an Australian pattern.
And the company itself, like I sort of hinted that at the start, that it's you and your husband and Donna and her husband. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's pretty much right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the four of us mainly that's always together. We start everything's all the designs and all the quality control, that's all done here in Australia. And we source our stuff from overseas. We have also sourced some stuff here from Australia. Everything that we design, we definitely sit and look at and try and improve constantly. And back and forth. It all comes down to the boys actually being hunters, knowing what is needed.
Yep.
And understanding what needs to go into the clothing to make it right. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so thanks for that information about the company, and obviously great to hear that the products are being designed and tested by hunters themselves.
Yep.
Which is always important, because some products do get pushed out in the industry and they're not actually tested or calibrated by hunters, and sometimes we don't actually get the things that we need as hunters.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So the pattern that you guys have
That's a unique pattern. It's
Yeah.
our pattern.
Yeah.
Yes, but having an Australian pattern, Australian bush, we have, there wasn't many out on the market.
Yeah. And you sort of identified that you could design your own that was suitable for the Australian bush.
That's right. Yeah. So our pattern is unique to us. It's the only time you'll see that Australian pattern is on our clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see on the website the items of clothing that you've got. There's it is very Australian bushy. It's like looking into
the gum tree and the wattle. And so very and like we've had photos being taken of people wearing it out there, and honestly you could look for a long time and really can't see where they are.
Yeah.
So we're very happy and proud with the pattern. We've extended the range to children's range. We find it very unisex and can really suit a lot of people.
Yep.
The large, we've gone right up to size 10XL, because we realize that there are a lot of people that love to wear it, and and just there was not much market for that sort of size range.
Yeah.
And we've also put other thought into it in the sense of UV protected, and make sure that the clothing's quiet and warm and breathable.
Yep.
So all those things, all those elements that you're faced with when you're out there hunting, we've taken into consideration as much as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a important point that you've identified there about the sizing as well. So you've sort of covered all bases and gone from children, because I've got children myself, and I know when they were younger, I struggled to find clothing that was suitable to take them out into the bush in. Didn't end up in covered in burrs and cobbler's pegs and that sort of thing, and stuff that was actually cool enough for them to walk around in as well.
And comfortable, comfortable, warm.
Yeah.
Oh, we love seeing the children's faces when we sell the tracksuits to them. They're so excited. They just want to be like mum or dad, and for them to be able to wear the same pattern and go out there and spend time with as a family out in the bush is it's so nice to see the kids so happy with the range.
Yeah, yeah. And you've got a blaze orange range as well, or orange camouflage, yes. You refer to it as, so high visibility.
Yeah, so that's due to safety. A lot of deer hunters tend to wear the orange, so that they're visible to other shooters when they're out there.
Yep.
We think that that's really important, at least to have an orange hat or an orange, some sort of orange clothing, should be worn, so that just due to safety.
Yeah, and obviously in New South Wales, it's a requirement if you're hunting on public land there that you have to wear a certain percentage of orange. So yeah. So tell me about the some of the items in the range that you've got then, and what your most popular ones are, for example.
All right. So we've got a jacket that's called a stalker, which is probably our top seller. It's a very, very warm and insulated jacket. So stalker meaning that, a lot of people that are out there and, staying out there for a long time, they can stay dry and, warm. And by wearing the stalker, you just kind of feel like you're pretty much being, protected by the weather, the rain, and so that's a really popular jacket of ours. The stalker is made by tricot fabric, and it's got a membrane in there that protects you from the rain, to a certain degree, of course, but pretty much everyone that's bought it has given us great feedback on the jacket and they've loved it. There's also a hoodie. The hoodie is a different fabric. It's a fleece.
Yeah.
So also thick jacket, keeps you quite warm. We tend to see a lot of the, teenagers, younger people liking that. That's something that can be worn, around the campfire, on your quad, and things like that, where you're kind of moving around and, you still want to, be warm. That does also is water resistant, not quite like the stalker, but also still quite water resistant. And then from there's a few other jackets. We've got a stalker, and we've got a hiker, which is a little bit very similar to the stalker, but a little bit thinner for those, probably that are going to be more active and be walking around a bit more. That doesn't need the jacket to be so thick.
Yeah.
This year we've introduced a couple of new products, being the vest, which has been quite popular. We've also got a large bag range. So we've introduced a few bags. Then we've also introduced a thinner holo, which has been really nice with the zip that comes down. And it's just we changed it up from the t-shirt because we just needed that collar just for people to protect their neck from the sun.
Yeah.
And it's got the UV protection in it. So we try and think of all those things as well, like, all the things that you're faced with out there, sun, heat, cold.
Everything Australian weather throws at you.
Yes,
Sometimes
exactly.
all in one day.
Yes, yeah. So, and it depends. Yeah, you just got to have different things for different hunting purposes. Some people tend to be out more in the sun. Some people need to be kept warm because they're stalking, and some people are walking a lot, so therefore need to stay dry, but also need to have that, not stay dry, but not necessarily warm. So we try and suit the jacket to what the hunter needs.
Yeah. And look, hunting clothing is a layering system. It works best as a layering system.
Absolutely.
So you start with your base layers, then you have your active insulation, then you have your rainwear and your cold weather gear and so forth. So from looking on the website here, you've pretty much covered it. I think you've pretty much covered everything from top to toe. You've got hats. You've even got shorts for those that like hunting and hiking in shorts and either in warmer weather, or mate of mine's a New Zealander. He likes the shorts with the long johns on underneath. Some packs, some socks, beanies, neck scarf. Yeah, you sort of covered everything, I think. Everything that you almost can. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I can see you've got a camouflage gun bag there as well, so you can even
they've been very popular, those.
Great. Now, in terms of finding you and contacting you, if people want to discuss sizing, or do you have a sizing guide on the website? Like, what's the best way to go from there?
So we're an online store. We also do have stockists around, which will be on our website all around. We've got a lot in Tasmania. We have some in Melbourne, New South Wales, South Australia. So all the stockists are on there. We're happy with either email or phone calls. We're always happy to answer any questions. Any opportunity that we get to exhibit anywhere, we like to be there. We like to meet people. We do have a lot of reoccurring customers, and we love that. Like, when you see an order come through and it's the same name that bought 3 months ago, I recognize that, and I think, oh great, they've obviously have come back because they've liked the product. So the size chart's all on there, but anytime anyone needs to query anything, we're not a huge company, we're a family-run company, and so you'll get someone on the other end that's always more than happy to help.
Great.
Yeah. So as I said, we started in 2017. We worked together. Our name came up with obviously being Oz, meaning Australia, and stealth, meaning undetected in our bush.
Sneaky.
So that's how we came to Oz Stealth.
Yeah, great. All right. And look, I'll put some links in the show notes to your website and socials, but just give us those now as well.
So it's www.ausstealth.com.au is our website, and anything that to do with sizing or returns or anything like that is info@ausstealth.com.au.
Okay.
And that can all be found here on the website.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining me and telling us everything about Ausstealth, Nina.
That's beautiful. No worries. Thank you.
So, in terms of photography, then, if you're talking to a backpack hunter and he says, "I want to do," before I do you just do photography or do you do videography as well?
I'm hybrid, yeah. Okay. So I do both. Yeah.
So then, if we were talking to a backpack hunter and he said, "I want to start doing a bit of photography and videography and capturing, my hunts and maybe think about doing a YouTube channel or just some content for Instagram," what would your advice be to them as a couple of good starting points, things that they should look at investing in or even things to consider in general?
Yeah, so I think if it's a backpack hunter, predominantly backpack hunter, I think you can get away with a lot on a GoPro or a Insta360. So they're, like those action cam style setups.
Yeah.
They're lightweight, the stabilization's fantastic. You can now plug in microphones to the GoPros and stuff to make them a little bit more audio friendly.
Yeah.
But let's face it, everyone's got a mobile phone in their pocket now. Your mobile phone can handle a lot of content related stuff, social media related stuff.
Yeah.
The iPhone Max, the iPhone Pro iPhone is the camera on that's pretty sensational. So I would probably say my advice would be use what you've got for now. And if you're passionate about telling your story or trying to benefit hunting in general, in a public sort of forum, then upgrade from your phone or a GoPro to a mirrorless camera. The mirrorless cameras are any brand. I shoot on Canon, but any of the new mirrorless cameras are phenomenally good. But when you start to go into the more professional grade of content, it's expensive. The Canon gear, I use native Canon gear, and it's sort of now, it'll make your eyes water the price of a professional setup. But yeah, my advice would be if someone's looking to start out, I'd say use your phone, go on a trip, use your phone. If you enjoy the aspect of documenting the hunt and it wasn't detrimental to you taking an animal or your end goal, because let's face it can get in the way. Just the other day, actually, I'll sidetrack a little bit. Just the other day, I was out trying to video sambar deer, trying to get some live sambar deer for a project I've been working on just to finalise the last little bits that I might have needed. So I went out and started finding sign, and first thing I was like, some sign. I'll get my phone out and I'll take a photo, and when I get back to reception, I'll post it on Instagram. As soon as I took my phone out, I hear a stick crack behind me. I turned around and here's this spiker staring at me. Basically dropped my phone on the ground, picked up the big camera to film it. As soon as I picked up the big camera, he took off. Didn't have enough time. So, it's a double-edged sword. You want to try and get that content, but it can often get in the way. But if you've done it a few times with your phone, and you're looking to upgrade, GoPros are perfect. Action cams are good. And then if you're going to go from there, any mirrorless camera, but obviously that comes with a price point. obviously YouTube can pay creators. So if you're starting to get paid by YouTube, you might want to invest in a bit more quality. But I'd probably suggest just use the phone in your pocket, try and tell that story. And if you like that, and you can put together a good video or a few good photos, start to upgrade from there.
Yeah, I've heard quite a few guys actually recommend phones as well, and even with in combination with your spotting scope, setting it up in the proper adapter, whatever brand it is that you prefer, and being able to get some really good footage through the spotting scope as an alternative to carrying cameras. But then I've also heard guys talk about carrying the camera instead of the spotting scope, in place of that. So I think it's called a bridging camera.
Yep. Yeah, there's attachments for little sort of point and shoot cameras that can go onto your spotting scope as well. So the digi-scoping, one of my mates has a setup that he uses, and I think it's a 60 times spotting scope, and he gets some sensational photos out of that setup. But if you are going to try and get the same sort of range zoom with a mirrorless camera, the lens is going to be heavy. You're looking at probably a 1200mm lens, maybe even more. But so there are, I've spoken to a lot of guys who want to try and get into photography in the hunting space, and your lens kit and lens selections, you're obviously limited by weight. You can't carry every single thing, and there's always a spin-off, always a trade-off. Some lenses won't stop down enough to let enough light in when we hunt. Often you're up before the sun's up, you're seeing deer in that first hour of light, and then in the last hour of light, we talk about our optics, how important scopes are, like how important binoculars are. The good quality glass works well in that low light situation, but it comes with the bigger price tag, So it's it's a slippery slope when you start to get into camera gear. You sort of, it's probably the equivalent. If I'm being honest, it's probably a similar sort of entry point to get into hunting as it is for photography. It's not cheap to get into hunting. You're probably looking at, by the time you buy your camo, your first gun, optics, binoculars, ammo's expensive now. It's probably on par with buying a semi-professional camera setup. So often you sort of got to pick one or the other. Do you want to be a hunter and get the good gear for harvesting an animal, or do you want to be a photographer and go down that professional photography route where you've got expensive gear on that works when we need it to work?
I think I saw Stephen Drake doing a bit of a gear dump the other day for a trip that he and his wife were about to go on, and one of the things he said on there was pretty much the camera bodies are all the same across the brands. There's some that have got there's differences between them, but pretty much all of them are good. Where you really want to spend your money is in the lenses. And, he's, talking about spending thousands of dollars, which obviously equates to, much more in Australia. That's, I guess that's a next step up then, isn't it? Is to say, if you were giving, somebody said, I want to spend more money. I want some better photographs, better video. Where's the next step for me? You'd probably recommend some Canon body, I'd say, and then a couple of lenses.
I shoot Canon. I have been told by a few people to switch to Sony, but again, it's the entry. To spend money on changing from one system to the other. I'm sort of pretty set in my ways with Canon. I do like the color that comes out of my Canon camera. and I love the native lenses, like the professional L series lenses are just like crystal clear, you know. And I get good results with the Canon gear that I do have, so I sort of don't want to have to relearn a Sony system or Panasonic or Nikon or whatever. They're all good. Like you're not going to go wrong with the purchase if you make an educated decision on which brand you're going to go with. There are off-brand lenses that you can buy, like the Sigma Art series lens is phenomenal and a lot cheaper than native Canon lenses, but I like to go down the native route because they develop them together. They're designed together. They work together. The autofocus works like that. But they just work when you need them to work. So, but yeah, if you're sort of looking to get into documentary style photography or sort of hybrid shooting, you know, you're going to need a wide lens, anywhere from 15 mil to 35 mil, and then from there, if you're going to go for a sort of like portrait style photography, you want to look at 50 mil lens, maybe you go a prime 50 mil, maybe an 85 mil prime, maybe, depending on your style. And then if you're going to try and go into the wildlife scene, you probably want a 70 to 200 mil lens as a minimum. You can zoom in a little bit with in post production, but that would probably be the basic sort of kit, three lens kit. You're probably looking at your wides at 15 to 30 mil, and then your 50 to maybe 85 mil, and then you've got your 70 to 200 to punch out a little bit for your wildlife. But if you want to get that fill your frame wildlife imagery, you're going to have to get like a 600 mil lens or greater. You can get converters, which will zoom in like double your an extender that'll double your focal length. So if you've got a 200 mil and you've got a 2 times extender, you can get 400 mil. But the trade-off is that you get half the light transmission. So once you dive into it, you know, you sort of get, there's pros and cons for all the gear. But I think, as long as you're buying quality glass, the photography, like the images will come out tack sharp. You know, there's a lot of guys who come to me and said, "Oh, my lens doesn't take, like, it's a little bit soft," and then you'll be like, "Well, what class of lens is it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's sort of mid-tier." The mid-tier isn't going to do professional photography. You know, you're not going to be happy with the imagery you get from a mid-tier lens versus a fully professional lens, but you're looking at, you know, sometimes three times the price. So there's pros and cons with everything, but it's a bit tricky to give a you can talk about focal lengths and stuff like that, but when you start to talk about professional versus amateur gear, the results, they're chalk and cheese. It's almost like a cheaper pair of binoculars versus a Zeiss or a Swarovski. You know, it's chalk and cheese.
No, I understand, and it's it then becomes a very deep pool that you're diving into, and and
then if you've sort of set yourself up with Canon gear and you want to swap to Sony, yes, you can sell your Canon gear, but then you've got to outlay more to get into Sony. So, it's a bit tricky. I obviously love Canon. I'm not looking to change, but any new mirrorless camera system will work.
And in terms of how you carry your camera, what have you found the best way? Because I've seen there's quite a few different adapters out there that go on to, you know, your backpack shoulder straps and neck rigs and that sort of thing. What do you find works for you?
Yeah, so I use a cotton carrier harness. So it's basically where your bino harness would normally be in the front of your chest there. You sort of clip it on in lieu of your bino harness, and the camera sort of goes down in a 90-degree sort of slot, and when it rotates, it locks in. It won't come back out that way. So you can walk around and jump over logs and stuff like that. But the way you get it out is you twist it 90 degrees and you can lift it out. Then there's a little round attachment that fits to the bottom of your camera that fits into that harness. They also offer a separate harness or separate attachment that you can wrap around a strap. So you could put it on your backpack strap and have your camera hanging off your backpack strap and still wear your bino harness.
Yeah.
But I find the same thing going back to the hunter versus photographer. If I think there's going to be a lot of glassing happening, some downtime where I'll be able to get behind the glass to help a hunter, I pack my binos in my bag, and I'll always keep my camera on ready for photography, because basically if I've got my binos, it's not my job to see an animal and quickly pull my binos up. My job is to get the camera ready. So that's the tool that I'll need to use. But it's always sort of it's always sort of nerve-wracking walking through the bush with your camera attached to your chest, like you've hunted in Australia and probably some other joints that are quite thick as well. But when you're pushing through that scrub and you've got the trees smacking your camera, and it's not pleasant. You often protect your camera and you're copping sticks in the face and stuff like that. But
it's like carrying a baby on you in a chest harness, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And in terms of stability then for taking the photos, are you running tripods or monopods?
Yeah, so I'll usually have a tripod in my bag. Obviously, they come in really handy for like camp photos at night and group photos with the animal. If I wanted to jump behind the animal when the animal's down as well. So I usually carry a tripod in my bag. But the monopods are very handy as well for stabilisation. If I was going to have my camera attached to anything while I was walking and running and gunning, it would be a monopod, not a tripod. You can use a tripod like a monopod, but I think the monopod, it's a little bit more quiet. You don't have the three legs that can clink together, and So if I needed it, usually I haven't needed any stabilisation. The camera that I use has like 6 stops of image stabilisation built in with Canon lenses. So I get away with hand holding, and I know my settings for hand holding that camera. I've done enough work to know to really dial in those settings. So the monopod comes in handy when you're doing videography because you can get that real. I like that real stable footage. I don't really like that jarring and wobbly style footage. But often, if it's the hunter in me again. I'll stop next to a tree, and then I've got that stability if I need it. So I think being a hunter first has helped me in the photography field.
Yeah, and like you say, that kind of crossover that you would do the same behaviour that you would do with a hunting rifle in your hand. You're probably emulating with a camera. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
even to the point where you stop in the shadows. Like if I wasn't a hunter and I was just a photographer, I reckon I would have blown a lot more stalks. Touch wood, I haven't blown a stalk for a hunter, but it's just these being mindful of the environment you're in and the situation that you're in, mate, it's draining. It is mentally draining, and it's often hard after 3 days or 4 days out in the backcountry where you're still trying to be creative and you feel like you've taken the same photo yesterday, and you've got to push through a different set of challenges as a photographer. But yeah, it's very rewarding when you get back home and you download that memory card and you get a handful of photos that you're proud of.
Yeah. There's only so many sunrises and sunsets you can photograph. But yeah, like you say,
they're all beautiful, but yeah, you don't want too many of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't want a full SD card full of them. But as you say, if you do happen to catch that one moment in time, some sort of raw exposure of emotion, or some moment that is, I guess, for the hunters, will be the memory that they refer to. That's the picture they're going to put on the wall, or the screensaver on their phone, or something like that.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah. I just got back from the Northern Territory on a bantang hunt, and I just delivered like a handful of quick photos to one of the hunters. He was after a couple for Instagram, and just quickly put a little bit of an edit on them and sent them through. And the first thing he said was, "Oh my God, it makes me feel like I'm back there." The emotion, he's like, it just took me straight there. So it's rewarding for me that I can offer that to people. I just love capturing those little microseconds in time where people, in 20 years' time might look back at that album and go, the memories flood back.
Yeah.
The emotion floods back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because memories fade quite easily over time, and sometimes I know I've done same thing on trips, and you come back and look through it and you go, oh, that's right, that actually, yeah, I remember that part now. It had drifted off, and old age had crept in and so forth, so the memory got replaced with something else. But yeah, having that there, it takes you straight back.
Yeah, well, I just said to my mate the other day, I said, "Oh, I think I've got this vivid memory of my childhood and going to school on the first day, but I saw a photo of my memory at home at my parents' place, and I'm like, now I'm confused. I don't know if it's my memory of that moment or whether I remember the photo and have the feelings from the photo etched in my memory." So I think photography is very important, to get that phone out, take that photo, capture that moment. You may never use it again, but at least you've got it.
Look, I from a previous occupation, I'm very well aware that memory is incredibly unreliable. It is nowhere near as reliable as we would like to think that it is. So it is very easy for our brain to generate something that we then rely on, as a memory, and then refer to that as being the truth. When in actual fact, it wasn't. It was manufactured, or it's distorted from what it originally was. So, that photography or videography is very, I guess, the defining point then to refer back to, and that's the certainty of exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In Australia, America has obviously a much bigger population, and particularly a hunting population. So there are actually people out there whose full-time job it is to go and accompany hunters and capture hunts and that sort of thing. I mentioned Stephen Drake before, and the Adam Fosses of the world and so forth. Is there that quantity of work for you in Australia, or are you a sort of mixture of commercial work as well, working for businesses as well as tagging along and capturing hunts?
Yeah, so I think in Australia we're in a unique situation where the American market does phenomenal advertising, but it's not Australian photography or Australian hunts or the gear getting used within the Australian environment. So there is opportunity for some of those larger American brands that are selling in Australia. to need local content, which I think resonates more with the Australian. You know, you see in the hunting magazines where you can tell it's an American photo in an Australian hunting magazine, but you flick the page and you see, you know, ridgeline camo in the Australian bush, and you're automatically drawn to, oh, look at that, that's an Aussie, you know, that's for sale in Australia, basically, you know. So there is opportunity for brand work in Australia, and obviously commercially you want to target the brands because they've got the marketing budgets, and you know, you work in with their teams and stuff like that to create content that suits their needs. But I also get satisfaction from joining hunters on their hunts as well, you know. So there's two sort of avenues to pursue with photography. One's the brand work, and the other's personal hunts. There's probably three actually as well, but you sort of lump it in with the business or brand side of things is the outfitting services as well. So there's outfitters, there's brand work, and then there's the personal hunts, people that want their personal stuff documented. But often you can sort of merge the two. Like if a fellow wants to have a personal hunt photographed, I often go to my address book and look up brands and say, look, this fella's getting some photographs done. Would you like to be involved and, you know, coordinate a project like that?
Right. Yep. So
yeah, there's sort of three main areas that I target. But yeah, the jobs that I love is that adventure style work where, you know, we're remote, in the wilderness, backcountry stuff. Even that Bantang hunt up in the territory, mate, that was wild. Like, that was so good. I was working for a boot company up there. So yeah, I love that wilderness stuff. I think that wilderness style of hunt comes through in the photography, and I think that's what sort of resonates with a lot of people is that wilderness. You know, it's got a particular emotion to it rather than a staged sort of product shoot. You know,
Yep. It's great that you're able to combine something that you love as a hobby with something that you obviously love doing professionally as well. But is there a danger that what you love doing then becomes your job, and so then it gets the same attachment to being a job instead of a hobby?
Yeah, I was just talking about this actually. But yeah, that saying about do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life, mate. It's work. I love photography, but it is work. Like, yeah, and it doesn't just stop in the field. There's post production where, you know, the latest project I've probably spent it's probably 12 days now, on and off, not full days, but I've worked on the video, 4.5, a little bit over 4-minute video.
Yep.
I've worked on that for probably 12 days, delivered 170 odd photos as well. So it's not just the 5 days in the bush. There's a lot of computer time, behind the scenes time that gets taken up as well. So the end product is so satisfying, but it's work to get there, you know. Yeah.
I suppose at least it's content that you love, that you're interested in. You know, you're not photographing babies and somebody's wedding. You know, it's stuff that you're emotionally invested in also.
Yeah, a fella said to me, he's like, "Oh, you're a pretty good photographer, mate. You should get into weddings." You know, my wife does the occasional weddings, and you know, she makes quite good money. She might do two weekends a month, sort of thing, and it's a bit of extra cash. And I said, I don't mind capturing a hunt. There's a lot of stress on capturing a hunt, but I'm sure there'd be 10 times the stress on capturing a wedding day. Like if you miss focus, or, you know, in a particular seen. I'm not the type of guy that would direct someone to do that again. I try to capture it as candidly as possible.
Yep.
A lot of my photography isn't staged. Some of the sort of product stuff might be, but the genuine hunting side of things will be, I capture that in the moment. If that bloke touches that animal in a particular way, I'll capture it there and then. Like, I don't get him to, "I'll touch that animal again, please," or I'm very. I try not to impact the hunt at all. So if I had to do a wedding, I don't know if I could say to the bro, "Can you just kiss that bloke again?" Or like, can you just hold hands, or can you? Yeah, it wouldn't suit me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. I remember listening to a Canadian hunter, has his own TV show and so forth, and he was talking about his film crew and his expectations on him, and he's very much that sort of mindset as well. He said, if I do it and you don't capture it, I'm not doing it again. He said, if I walk up a hill and you're not in the right place at the top to capture it, I'm not walking down there and walking back up the hill again. So make sure you get it right the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a cameraman's job, like, it's not easy. Like, you're often doing a few more kilometres than the hunter. You're trying to get a different angle. A lot of the time, you're walking behind them. You want to try and capture their face at times, and you want to capture them. The steepness of a hill. You want to be above them. You want to be looking down. So it's a job that you think you want to do, but then when you go out on that first job and you're trying to get all the frames that you want, by gosh, you need to be fit.
Yeah. You've also, by the sounds of it, you also got to stalk them a little bit too as well. You've got to, not just about the animals, you've got to actually stalk the people.
Yeah, and you can't make that much noise either. You're clearly out there to outsmart an animal. That's the goal. You're busy running up the hill trying to get an angle, or you're impacting the hunt a little bit too much. You've got to sneak up the hill as quick as you can without impacting the hunt, getting in front of the hunter. Like, it is tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah,
and a lot of the times the hunt's first. Like, it's often hunt first, photography second. As long as the hunter fulfills his goal, the imagery will support that. I capture enough throughout the trip to tell that story. You just got to seize that moment and take your opportunities. If he's glassing or whatever, you can sneak up and get a different angle, or just got to be smart about it. Yeah.
All right. So outside of photography gear, then, sorry, mate, I've got a frog in my throat.
Yeah, that's all right.
Outside of photography gear, then, what are the other bits of backpacking gear that you have that you would recommend? For a hunter, essentially.
Yeah. So I suppose I'll start with food. I love me food. I use Go Native meals out of New Zealand.
Yeah.
They're like, you can eat them cold. You don't need to add water. They do a mash powder that you have to add hot water to. But if you run out of gas on a hunt or whatever, hopefully you don't. Hopefully you've got enough. But if you run out of gas, you can just eat those meals cold if you have to.
Yeah.
And they don't upset my stomach. Some of those dehydrated or freeze-dried sort of meals end up upsetting my tummy a little bit, and they're not great for like 4 days in a row.
Yeah, mate, I've often said that some of the dehydrated meals that you eat, the freeze-dried ones, after eating them for about 5 days, what's coming out of you is extremely similar to what you have just put in you.
Yeah. Even when it hydrates, it doesn't really look like anything.
Yeah.
Whereas that Go Native stuff, you've got, like, you can see it's food. Like, you can see it's been prepared. You can see nice chunks of meat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to interrupt you there while you're doing that list, just to give a bit of a plug and suggestion. Have you looked at or heard of the on-track meals?
No, I haven't.
Okay. very similar sort of thing. It's a ready to eat. It's you just heat the packet and open it up and then you eat it. They're an Australian company. They're actually based in Brisbane, veteran owned. I did an interview with one of the co-owners a little while ago, and he gave me some to sample. And they're obviously, there's a weight penalty with it. But the quality, one of the meals I had, I'm going to do a review on the meals on another episode, but one of the meals I had I think it was a coconut chicken curry or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember now off the top of my head. I've got my notes. But mate, if you got served that in a restaurant, you would not be unhappy at all. It was sensational. So yeah, On Track Meals. I'm going to plug them because they're Australian business. Have a look online. There's a discount code as well to get a bit off, but you might be able to do something with them and reach out and do a bit of a collab. But
mate, I love new food, so always open to trying new stuff. Those Go Natives too. I think any meal, you've expended a lot of energy. By the end of the day, you're reasonably hungry, mate. Those packets don't last long. I get, mate. Even if I ended up eating those On Track ones, mate, I'm ravenous by the end of the day.
Yeah. I know years ago when I was in Scouts and doing a lot of just backpacking, the early dehy meals and freeze dried meals, some of them you were better off tipping the contents out and just eating the packaging. There was more flavour and more nutrition in it. But I actually got to the point a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, of buying my own dehydrator and making my own dehydrated backpack meals and, buying the proper little mylar foil bags and sealing them and that sort of thing and putting oxygen absorber in there because I got tired of the trying to eat those, trying to choke those meals down at the end of the day. You know, when you sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle. So I tried to get my own meals up and running. Something that I knew I was going to eat that I knew was tasty and I went through COVID. I put a few aside and I was planning on doing a trip to New Zealand, so I was going to take them over there, but because they didn't eventuate, I've sort of eaten them over the years. So now I've got to go back and do it all again, But
I think with the other thing with the dehydrated meals or the powdered meals, I often mess up how much water goes in them. If you put too much water in them, they're not very tasty at all. It's just like eating a soup or
it goes the other way, and you end up with a lump of crunchy powder or something or other in the bottom, or you just end up with this sloppy sort of soup. Sometimes you're just so hungry that you're just prepared to eat almost anything. So.
100%. Yeah, you don't tip it out. If you stuff it up, you don't tip it out. No. That's for sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. So the food was the first thing?
Yeah, food. And then I suppose not in my pack, but my boots. Like I've got a pair of crispy Nevada Legends that I run in the high country. And they are the most comfortable boot that I've ever put on. Straight out of the box. I walked them on the flat initially, and I don't think I really needed to wear them in, but I went and just did a bushwalk in them with my wife and went up a couple of steep hills and stuff like that before a backpack hunt. And I was so impressed by those boots. They were phenomenally comfortable. We went out and did a high country backpack hunt for 3 nights, and when we obviously walk up the ridge to get into our system, there was snow, a light blanket of snow on the way in, and I couldn't fault those boots. We were walking on rocks, and then when we get into the bottom of the creeks, the wet, sludgy side of things, my socks never got wet, whereas in hunts prior, my feet were freezing bloody cold because they'd get wet almost immediately, like even walking through dewy sort of sort of wet undergrowth in the ferns and stuff like that, my old boots used to probably absorb the water, and my socks would be wet. And, yeah, as soon as you stopped walking, at the end of the day, your feet were freezing. So, yeah, those Crispies are pretty neat bit of kit. And then I suppose for tent let's talk about the backpack. I run a Stone Glacier 5900 pack on a X curve frame.
Yep.
I went for the 5900. I didn't think I needed the next one up. I think it might be a 7200, which is what they sell predominantly for the guides overseas, who carry a shitload of stuff.
Yeah, that was the pack that I actually ended up buying. Yeah, the Sky Guide.
70. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think in hindsight, I don't think I would have gone bigger, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more room for when the weather turns. I could put all my camera gear in the bag along with all my other stuff. So the guide, I don't think I need it for hunting, the guide pack, the 7200 or whatever it was, but the 5900 is perfect for if I was purely hunting. But yeah, maybe that guide pack would have been a little bit better. But then if you've got the room, you end up stacking stuff in your bag. So
that is, and it comes down to discipline, really. You know, and just really sticking to your list and not just throwing things in. You know, because you know the old what if. John Barclay says what if weighs a lot. If you're throwing it in just for the sake of throwing it in, then yeah, absolutely, you're gonna break yourself. But I sort of went on the theory that if I bought bigger and you don't need it as big, then you can compress it down. It's a lot easier to compress it down than it is to build it out. And one of the things that I hate is having stuff attached to the outside of my pack. You know, having the Crocs flopping around on the back and, you know, and a tent bag lashed underneath and that sort of stuff. And I'm always worried that it's going to get caught on something and rip or fall out or... You know, I just like to have a nice, neat package, and the Stone Glaciers, you know, really good frame. I've got the X curve as well, very comfortable. I was really impressed with how well it carried weight, and I went for that size as well because I wanted to carry my podcast gear with me. So I've got a big sort of, you know, Pelican box that it goes in. Although I'm going to review that and try and compress it down a little bit more because it was couple of kilos that I probably could reduce a bit, but yeah, to carry that as well, you know, that's a significant amount of airspace in the pack, and you know, in cold weather you got your puffy layers and all that sort of stuff, so that just takes up space, but it's not necessarily weight. So yeah, I sort of thought if I go bigger and I'm strict, then if I don't need the room, it's easy to compress it down, and that's how they design those packs. You know, you can use that as a day pack virtually, and the way that they've designed that top as well, you know, so it folds over and you've got the other clips and you can run it in the bivvy mode. You know, and take the lid off and I really like the design of them. So that was my theory. And the other thing I liked about the guide was the zip configuration over the other model. So that was sort of what really sold me on it too.
Yeah, I love my pack. Yeah, I can't say a bad word about the pack. You know, like you said, weighted. They really come into their own, that X frame, X curve frame. It's like, it's sort of like a conundrum because you can seriously load those packs up. Like you can put 30 kilos in that pack and not that nine. Like it's comfortable, and you don't really want to be carrying 30 kilos around in the bush, but you can with those things.
Mate, I'll make a disclosure. On the last trip I did in May down in Victoria High Country there, I took a bit of extra gear and obviously the podcast gear as well, and I think the whole kit was about 3.5 or 3.7 kilos, something like that. So, and I took a few other things as well because I wanted to sort of test them out. You know, so there was a bit of extra gear, and And I also didn't have my food dialed in, so I took way too much food, and the wrong sort of food too. So that's just me trying to get back into the swing of it all. But with the rifle and water, when I left the car, it was 37 kilos.
Yeah, that's heavy.
But it was heavy. But I was so impressed at how well that pack carried that weight, how it felt on me. Like it became uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but you'd expect that from that much weight. But how it just held me and carried the weight. I was really impressed.
Yeah, they're engineered or designed. I don't know. They must have done a lot of research in what they've come up with, because I couldn't believe it. So if it's fitted right, if you've loaded your pack and you've got all the straps dialed and everything's fitted right to your body, mate, those things, you can carry some serious weight on them.
Yeah.
I think we got a sander on the last ton we did, and I carried two back legs, the back straps and the fillets in the meat shelf, and then the two front legs over my shoulders. Like, it was heavy, like, don't get me wrong. It was heavy, and about 3 Ks into the walk, I had to bone out the back legs. But, yeah, mate, like, they can be loaded right up. Those things are, great packs.
Yeah. I had to, I went to I bought a large hip belt. I think I started with a medium. Yeah, I started with a medium based on their sizing chart. Did that trip, and I came back and I thought, I think I need a slightly larger hip belt. So I bought the medium. I haven't tried it out properly yet I bought the large. So I've swapped it over, but I haven't tried it out properly. So I think that will then again improve the load carrying ability again. So that's probably my only criticism is I don't think their sizing chart was quite right, because I went on what they told me to buy, and I feel more comfortable with the large hip belt. But I've also bought a Exo K4 as well, which I'm trying out too. Just want to see which one I like both, and I may love them both equally. So it might be
that's right.
might be the conundrum.
The other thing with the Stone Glacier is it's a pro and a con, but they've got so many accessories. Like, you can kit that pack out. They've got the internal, they've got the dry bags, because you can run your dry bag in the meat shelf as an extra pack. So if you don't have enough room in your main pack, you can But with the accessories comes the cost. Like, you can end up spending a fortune on the accessories, and you can go overboard. But for your listeners, I'd suggest going into Mansfield, if they're in Victoria, go down to Mansfield Hunting and Fishing and speak to the guys down there and try a few packs on, and then just buy what you need to within your budget, and then slowly add the accessories, as you go, and do a bit of research on use the pack and figure out exactly what accessories you need, rather than going into the shop buying the pack and the accessories at the same time, because you may not necessarily need a lot of the other stuff to add on to it. The pouches are nice, the GPS pouch and the ammo pouch and all that. You do. It's always handy to have that water bottle holder on your belt buckle and stuff like that, so you stay hydrated. So they're a bloody good bit of kit. That Stone Glacier pack.
Yeah, I did obviously I'm up in Queensland, so I got mine through Mansfield, and I did a phone consult with them and had a good chat to one of the fellas down there. He's the sort of resident expert on the Stone Glacier gear, so he talked me through it all, and and that was what I went with at the end. So even if you're not in Victoria, just pick up the phone. They're more than happy to chat to you over the phone. Even the guys in Stone Glacier, they're in I think Boise. Anyway, they're over in the States. I even rang them one day and chatted to them, and got some initial advice and so forth. Although I didn't want to spend too long on the phone, obviously, but they're getting charged for international calls. But I even rang them one day and had a chat, and I told them, in Australia, blah blah blah, and they were more than happy to give me some advice too. So yeah, there's
They've got a bit of content on their website too. Not website,
YouTube
on their YouTube channel, like with their tents and how to kit out your packs and stuff like that. And obviously they've designed the pack so they know exactly how to use all the accessories or some little tips and tricks that you may not necessarily know. They're pretty educational. That Stone Glacier team.
Yeah, my other small criticism of them is I'm not in love with the rifle carrier. I like
the stock fits.
No, I like that. I like the bottom.
Yeah,
it's up the top. That
right.
The strap just I can't get it to pull the rifle in nice and tight. It still seems to seems to flop around a little bit too much. I love the way that they've done it, where you can just yank on it and then you've got the rifle there at the ready. That's great.
Yeah.
But in terms of it feeling secure and attached, I'm not super in love with that yet. I'm still mucking around with it a little bit, but it's other than that, everything else, 100%.
Yeah. I've got that same sling as well, quick release sling, and I may not have it fitted properly, but same thing. It doesn't pull extremely tight. There's still a little bit of slop in that rifle, but I found too, if on one particular firearm of mine, I've got a like a limb saver on the bottom of the stock, and I don't know if it is too big for that little footprint or whatever it might be, but I'm always constantly touching the bottom of my stock just to make sure it's still nestled in that cradle. But I've never really needed to use that quick release rifle sling. I try not to hunt on that quick spook and shoot style. I'd rather see the animal, but it obviously happens occasionally. But I think it's handy to have that quick release. Just in case, rather than taking your pack off, ripping your and it sits a bit lower too, so your stock's not sort of your barrel's not sort of too high above your head when you're walking through that thick stuff.
Look, some of the up in Queensland, we're on private property up here with our hunting, and a lot of the properties have a combination of game. So there's usually a pig or two getting around on the property, or a feral dog. So sometimes, even though you're stalking deer and you're not looking for that quick shot, something might pop up and needs to be taken care of fairly quickly. So having that ability there is still good. So boots, backpack, your food. What's your next?
Food. So I run also a bit of a Stone Glacier fan. I ran the skyscraper tent, the 2-man dome tent, backpack tent. Can't fault that either. I think it weighs about 2.1 kilo maybe. I might even be less than that. Might even be less than 2 kilo. Anyway, fits in. It stores really small. Like it's almost the bag they've got almost feels too big. Like I can get that tent and the fly really cinched down real nicely. So big fan of their skyscraper tent. Then another sort of obscure one, I pack, and don't hate me, but I pack it on the outside of my pack. It's a Trek Pack hiking chair. It's an Australian brand that do the, like, I don't even know what material it is, probably aluminium, sort of framed chair, and you can put the canvas over the top, and you're sitting up off the ground at camp. Like, mate, I didn't think, like, when my mate said buy one, I was like, do I really need it? Now I've got it, I do not leave it at home. It comes on every hunt. It's just nice to not sit on the wet ground, the dewy ground, or you can set it up around the campfire, and it's just a creature comfort. It's lightweight. It's weight that I don't mind packing. I'd rather pack that than an extra battery bank or, I highly recommend those hiking chairs.
Yeah,
they're amazing.
I have seen those other brands. I haven't heard of that HydraPak one, so I'll check them out. But I have heard of like Helinox is I think one of the original brands that came out with that, and they're sub 1 kilo. And everyone who I've spoken to that has one, and I've seen them on some blokes' YouTube channels, they all rave about them. So I know if I've been tempted to buy one, I just haven't been able to justify the expense, the outlay at this stage. And I'm just curious as to whether the weight is actually really, really worth carrying. But more people I speak to, the more people are saying, this is a game changer.
Yeah, it's sort of like it comes into its own around those, like if you ever in like a wet gully or somewhere where everything's damp. If you've had to set up a camp, like a makeshift camp where you got damp stuff, nothing worse than sitting down on the ground and getting a wet bum, So these things were perfect. Often you can't find the perfect rock to sit on, or just that comfort at the end of the day. You can just chill out, sit in that. So they're quite low to the ground, and you got your feet sort of extended out. But it's a wonderful bit of kit. I highly recommend. If you look up that HydraPak, they're not super expensive. That HydraPak company, and mine hasn't broken. So I'd recommend them.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah, and the other beauty of that is that they come in a little sort of canvas bag, and there's a bit of room in there. So if you ever need to, you need to grab an extra whatever, some wet wipes or toilet paper roll or whatever, you've got that tiny little bit of extra space in that canvas bag to chuck something in there. Even snacks. If you got snacks for the hike in or whatever, you can chuck them in that little pack with your seat.
Yeah, right. Okay, all right. I'll check that one out. And rifle, what's your go-to rifle and setup?
I use Tatonka T3. It's how old would that thing be? Tatonka T3 light, I think it is. Super light? No, light. 270. The caliber is 270 WSM.
Yeah.
I love that gun. That gun's like everything I've shot with that gun hasn't gone very far. I don't know. Doesn't matter what distance I've sort of shot it at. There's something about that cartridge that performs. 140 grain Winchester Supremes I use. But I absolutely love that gun. It's I think it's a Leopold scope on it, but it's an older one. It's probably that setup's probably 15 years old. But I just bought a Hour super light in 308 with a Zeiss. I think it's a V4 scope. I haven't had time to sight that in yet. I've been too busy doing all these projects, but that thing kitted out with the magazine loaded with three rounds, weighed it at 2.6 kilo, I think it might have been.
Yeah, right.
Total weight. Yeah. So ultra lightweight. We shot one demo model, shot it at a gong at like 580 meters, and obviously with the turret system. And when I shot 2 shots and hit the gong twice, I said to the bloke, I'm buying one of these. I don't need to shoot 500 meters, but it was nice to know that setup could comfortably could do it with a bit of practice. So I'm keen to get that weight down so I can carry my camera gear and the 308, the super light as well.
Yeah.
So I just probably need to find the time to sight that thing in so I can take it out. But yeah, I'm excited to try it because the Tikka. I'm not sure what the weight is. It was light at the time when I bought it. It was probably the lightest rifle that they had at the time. But I'm sure with carbon fibre coming out, that it's probably shed at least 500 grams, I'd say, off the gun I've got now. Yeah,
yeah, right, yep. Does that have the standard stainless barrel, or is it a carbon fibre barrel one?
No, so it's I think it might be a blued barrel actually on the Hauer.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's blued. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
So another one of my mates bought one, and he got one Cerakoted. So I'm thinking I might get mine Cerakoted too, because it's pretty cool looking system. Yeah.
Yep. I have I got a bit of a fascination at the moment with the 270 caliber, and I shot a 270 for many years, and had a 270 Weatherby Magnum for many years as well. So I've got this theory about building an ultralight mountain rifle, and obviously in Victoria, minimum caliber is 270 with 130 grain to hunt deer. So whilst there are some really good 6.5 cal calibers, cases, cartridges out there, unfortunately it wouldn't
technically not legal.
Yeah, it wouldn't be legal. So I've sort of want to build this rifle that's accessible, because obviously getting components in Australia can be very tricky at times. So get something that's a little bit more common, but not super common, but still has the capability and so forth. And the 6.8 Western was a caliber that really caught my attention, but of course that all the components have been snaveled up by the American market. But what it's done is it's kind of kicked off now this production acceleration for 270 caliber projectiles. So I think we're going to see. I think that caliber is going to have a flow-on effect, and we're going to see a lot more availability in higher BC type bullets for the 270 cal, because the disadvantage that the 270 WSM was born with is the standard rate of twist that was brought in the barrel, and that's the main difference between that and the 6.8 Western, and that's why the 6.8 Western has become, even though it's basically a shortened 270 WSM, it will outperform it well and truly, particularly over long range, because it has the capacity to shoot those high BC heavier projectiles. So I'm talking with a gunsmith at the moment, and I want to I've got an idea about building like a sub 6 pound mountain rifle. So watch this space. I might have something that might interest you. But
awesome.
No, awesome, mate. Look, we could. I'm sure we could talk gear and rifles and stuff all night. And I want to be mindful of your time, given that it's late in the evening. Worries. You've got other things to do, and a wife that's probably looking for some sort of attention. But before we do go, I'm going to segue into the original reason that sort of brought me to you, and how we connected originally, and that's around Skeleton Optics AU Australia. So you and Daniela are now also undertaking this venture as well as another business.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I did a photography job for Skeleton Optics, and from there the ball got rolling on potentially becoming a distributor for the Australian market. And my wife and I were both really keen to get this product to market, because as soon as I put them on, the quality, the Zeiss lenses screamed quality. Like, I'd never put a pair of sunglasses on that were as clear as that pair. And they obviously veteran owned over in the States. So and it's just a phenomenal bit of kit, lightweight, awesome for active outdoor users. Lightweight, resistant to sort of stains or water. The lenses have a tripal coating on them. So yeah, they're an awesome pair of sunglasses. I wear mine every day, not just for hunting or shooting or anything like that. They're polarized and anti-glare. Mate, they're a phenomenal pair of sunglasses.
Yeah. And I did introduce at the start that you were a previous Friends of the Podcast episode as well. So we did sort of introduce the glasses back then, but I think what I really liked as well about just not just with Skeleton Optics, but with any sort of brand, that they actually identify as a hunting brand as well. You know, like looking at the website, they've actually got glasses under the category of hunting. So these are the ones that, you know, they recommend for hunting. So they're very open, companies that are very open about being pro hunting, supporting that industry and so forth. I think need more support from us, and we should be. I'm sure there's other very good brands out there and so forth, but you know, where we can take an opportunity to support a company that does support us, and you know, yourselves as an Australian business as well, and hunters as well, amongst all of that. You know, we really should be looking for those opportunities. So, and you know, I know we've spoken about it before, but they've got the coating, they're chemical resistant, they shed water well, so they're obviously designed to be worn outdoors. Lightweight, strong frames. You know, they've got little padded nose pieces in them, so they're not just, you know, your survey station type sunglasses, you know, with the hard nose bridge on it and bad luck if it digs in, you know. So they do look very comfortable and well made, and they've got a few different styles there, so there's plenty there. And I think they've got an impact resistance rating as well, don't they? So they're sort of in that category as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of like military spec sort of like safety glasses, clear glasses and dark glasses as well. So for shooters, bench shooters that have to wear sort of safety specs as well. So yeah, there's a full range there on the website. There's a pair of women's sunglasses there as well for any active outdoor women that want to jump on and have a look.
And even you know, tradies who need a set of safety glasses, or even, you know, anybody like you know, mowing your lawn and that sort of thing, you know, a set of safety glasses is always a good idea. But I'd say there's a breast cancer pink edition there as well. And they've even got the tomahawks, which are kind of that aviator style.
Aviator style.
That's great, mate. I'm glad to see you're giving this a go, and by the time this episode comes out, we do have a discount code at the moment, but by the time this episode comes out, it'll be past that sort of use by date. But we are having a talk about maybe something else that we might be doing in the future. There might be a bit of a competition being run. So for those people that didn't take opportunity of the discount code when it was on, there might be a opportunity soon to get yourself a pair for free anyway. But
if we can figure something out, the link will be in the description.
So just to remind everybody, how do they find Skeleton Optics and find out more information and contact you guys about the glasses?
So probably the website would be the easiest way. It's www.skeletonoptics.com.
.com.au.
skeletonoptics.com.au. .au. Don't forget the AU.
And you're on Instagram as well.
Instagram, skeletonoptics_AU. Jump on there. We've got, we go through a few of the technical specs and stuff like that. And if you contact us through there, we'll pretty responsive on Instagram. So
yeah. And in terms of Chris Burns photography, if somebody wanted to chat to you more about a possible contract or opportunity there, what would be the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, so I've got a website. It's chrisburns.photography. Also on Instagram, chrisburns.photography as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Instagram or the website. Probably Instagram if you want an instant sort of response. But yeah, if you've got any sort of technical queries, you could probably go through the website.
Yeah. All right. And are you still? Do you have a business for the African hunts too?
Yeah. If anyone's keen to hunt Africa, just contact me through Instagram. I've still got access to the property over there. The Instagram's Bushveld Hunting Adventures. So BUSHVELD Hunting Adventures. If you're keen on a hunt in Africa, I can head you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yep. Great. All right. Chris, once again, mate, it was great to chat to you, and I really appreciate your time, and thank Daniela for me as well for lending you to me for these number of hours. And yeah, we look forward to staying in touch, and maybe even one day sharing a hunt or a beer around a campfire or something.
Yeah, bloody oath. No, it's been good, Tobias. Thanks very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Come whenever you're in Victoria, let me know.
Yeah,
I'd love to tag along.
Yeah, great. Hey, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at australian_hunting_backcountry or email australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. For now though, please look after yourselves and your mates.